Humanity had never been the most powerful species in the galaxy. They lacked the brute strength of the Ogrins, the advanced telepathy of the Zephyr, and the sheer numbers of the Zalari. But they had something else, something no other species had in equal measure: ingenuity. The war between the Zalari Empire and the coalition of free species had raged for decades. Battles were brutal. Alliances constantly shifted, and survival often depended on technological superiority. It was here, in the heart of this war, that humanity had made its name. Not as warriors, but as mechanics, engineers, and problem solvers. That was why the capture of a human engineering crew was seen as a significant victory for the Zalari. A coalition fleet, crippled after a failed ambush, had been overwhelmed. Among the prisoners taken was Lieutenant Adrian Cole, a name well known in coalition military circles. His genius for starship repair and modification had turned the tide of countless battles. The Zalari were no fools. They recognized the value of these humans. Instead of executing them, they sent them to a high-security labor camp deep in Zalari-controlled space. The prisoners weren't just confined. They were forced to work on damaged Zalari warships, repairing systems, reinforcing armor, and ensuring that the Empire's fleet remained at full strength. It was a humiliating situation. The very people who had fought against the Zalari were now being used to sustain their war machine. But the Zalari didn't understand humans. They thought of mechanics as mindless laborers, creatures that followed instructions like programmed drones. They had no idea that human engineering was as much an art as it was science. The first few days, the humans did exactly as they were ordered. They worked in silence, fixing what was broken, restoring what was damaged. Their Zalari overseers were satisfied. But subtly, invisibly, the humans were planting the seeds of sabotage. A minor adjustment to an energy core here, a slight modification to a targeting system there. Nothing obvious, nothing that would raise alarms. But in battle, those tiny changes would mean the difference between a working fleet and a fleet that tore itself apart. The Zalari, arrogant in their belief that they were the dominant force, never suspected a thing. They saw humans only as tools to be used, never realizing that the greatest threat to their empire wasn't coming from the battlefield, but from their own repair bays. Days turned into weeks, and the Zalari remained oblivious. Their prisoners worked tirelessly, appearing to obey every command. The overseers barely paid them any attention. As long as the ships were repaired and ready for battle, what more was there to monitor? But the humans weren't just fixing ships. They were reprogramming them, redesigning them, breaking them in ways the Zalari would never notice until it was too late. Lieutenant Adrian Cole and his team operated with surgical precision. They altered thruster alignment, ensuring that ships would veer off course at critical moments. They subtly redirected shield power, causing energy fields to fail under sustained fire. Weapons targeting systems were modified, not enough to be obvious, but enough that, in the chaos of battle, they would lock onto the wrong enemies. Still, this alone wasn't enough. They needed the coalition to know what was happening. So they found a way to communicate, hiding coded messages within the software updates they were forced to install. Every time a sabotaged ship returned to the front lines, it carried more than just troops and weapons. It carried intelligence, warnings, and the exact locations of Zalari fleet movements. At first, the Zalari saw only minor technical failures, a shield flickering for a second too long, a thruster sputtering before stabilizing. Annoying, but nothing more. But then, warships started dying in ways that made no sense. A dreadnought in peak condition suddenly lost control of its propulsion system in the middle of battle and drifted straight into an asteroid field. Another ship's navigation controls reversed, sending it into friendly fire. Energy cores overloaded, weapons refused to fire, and entire squadrons fell apart before they could even engage the enemy. The Zalari officers grew suspicious. How could their superior technology be failing at such a scale? Investigations were launched, technicians were interrogated, but they found no clear answers. The humans had been careful. Every system had been altered in ways that looked like simple malfunctions, failures that could happen naturally under the stress of war. But there was one Zalari who wasn't convinced. Commander Vorkith, a seasoned military scientist, had seen enough. He studied the battle records, traced back every failure, and noticed something chilling. Every crippled warship had passed through the same repair station. Every doomed vessel had been worked on by the same prisoners. It wasn't a coincidence. It was sabotage, and the humans were behind it. Commander Vorkith wasted no time. He compiled his findings and sent them straight to High Command. The response was immediate: panic and fury. The Zalari had always believed in their own superiority. Their empire had crushed countless civilizations, and they had assumed humans were just another species to subjugate. But this was something far worse than simple defiance. These humans, these so-called inferior mechanics, had single-handedly crippled entire war fleets from the inside. They hadn't needed an army, warships, or even weapons, just tools, knowledge, and time. The Zalari Emperor himself demanded an emergency meeting. Admirals, generals, and strategists gathered, their faces twisted in disbelief. They reviewed the data, watched battle footage, and listened as Vorkith laid out the full horror of what had happened. Silence filled the war room. Then the outrage began. One of the admiral's voices shook with fury. "You let humans near our warships? Have you lost your mind?" The panic spread beyond the empire. When the news leaked to other alien civilizations, the reaction was immediate horror. The Raylan, master shipbuilders, were the first to respond. Their leader, upon hearing what had happened, let out a sharp hiss. "You imprisoned human mechanics? Are you crazy? You put a predator in your own engine rooms." The Ogrins, one of the most warlike species in the galaxy, didn't even try to hide their amusement. One of their generals erupted in laughter. "Oh, this is priceless." The mighty Zalari had been undone by their own ships. They didn't need to be invaded. They let the humans build their downfall with their own hands. The coalition wasted no time. Now that they knew what was happening, they spread the news across the stars, using the revelation to turn neutral factions against the Zalari. Even within the Empire, fear spread like wildfire, because now the question wasn't just about sabotage. The real horror was what else humanity could do. If a handful of human prisoners could bring down fleets from within, what could humanity accomplish with full control? The Zalari had made a mistake far greater than underestimating human resilience. They had underestimated human creativity. And now, as the Emperor seethed in rage, the alarms in his palace blared. A full-scale invasion was coming. The coalition wasn't just coming to fight. They were coming to take their people back. The invasion hit with terrifying precision. Coalition forces, armed with the knowledge provided by the sabotage warships, struck key Zalari positions with ruthless efficiency. Across the battlefield, Zalari ships failed spectacularly. Entire squadrons found themselves stranded as their hyperdrives refused to engage. Capital ships lost control of their shields, leaving them defenseless against enemy fire. Automated defense turrets turned against their own fleets, creating chaos in the Zalari ranks. Inside the prison facility, alarms blared as explosions rocked the structure. The human prisoners had been waiting for this moment. They had built their own failsafe into the security systems. The moment the external assault began, every single electronic lock in the facility malfunctioned at once. Prison doors slid open, security drones short-circuited, and power to the guards' weapons flickered out just as the humans launched their counterattack. Lieutenant Adrian Cole led the charge. The humans overwhelmed their captors, using makeshift weapons and stolen gear. Within minutes, they took control of the facility's central command center. And there, waiting in the hangar, was their prize, a Zalari dreadnought, one of the Empire's most powerful warships, freshly repaired by human hands. Cole and his team moved fast. The Zalari engineers tried to stop them, but the humans knew the ship better than its own creators. They bypassed the security systems, overrode the controls, and within minutes, the dreadnought was in human hands. As they lifted off, Zalari forces scrambled to respond. Fighters swarmed in, trying to bring down the escaping warship. It was a mistake. Every system on the dreadnought had been rigged by its former prisoners. With a simple command, Cole activated the final failsafe, disabling the weapons and shields of every Zalari vessel in range. The battle was over before it truly began. Cole opened a direct channel to the Zalari High Command. The Emperor himself appeared on the screen, his face twisted in rage. Cole smirked. Next time, don't put human mechanics in your engine rooms. With that, the dreadnought jumped into hyperspace, heading straight for Coalition space. The aftermath was catastrophic for the Zalari. Their fleets, their reputation, their very sense of superiority, all shattered by the very species they had looked down upon. And across the galaxy, one undeniable truth spread like wildfire. Humanity didn't need to be the strongest species. They just needed access to your machines.